We kick off hour number 2 right here with the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings here, courtesy of K Jewelers, Kirk Cousins. Good to see you, Kirk.
Rich, great to see you.
Again, I should say it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
I saw you last night.
Yes.
Backstage. It's kind of funny. I'm getting set to go out there and do my thing at NFL Honors for the Hall of Fame. I turn to my right, and there you're standing with an insane amount of ice around your. There's the photograph right there. That's us.
Wow.
Backstage.
Yep.
That took a few minutes of prep, I imagine.
When I went to wardrobe, they said, "Okay, we got 17 chains for you," and I said, "Who decided that 16 was too few and 18 was too many?"
I like that.
That was 17 chains right there.
I like that.
It did take a while to put on and take off.
Normally, you're just used to the one, right? Is that basically it?
Well, I mean, normally I'm used to having none, but this season it became a thing. So at first it was one.
Yes.
Then the next game it was 3, 4, 5, and then the next game it was shirtless, and then at that point I ran out of ideas. So.
And what about the singing last night? What about that?
Yeah, I was a little flat, but we had fun with it. It was a great time. Kelly, I thought, did an awesome job hosting.
She was great. She was great.
It's we're NFL players, so it's a bit of a tough audience. It's not showbiz that you're performing for. So but she was awesome, and it was fun to do that. I mean, I listened to that song that I parodied in high school, and so to sing it with her, you're kind of in one of those moments where you're like, this is awesome. I'm living a dream.
Yeah, blown away by just everybody that's in that spot. Every year, I don't get jaded. It's kind of cool. Who did you meet last night? Anybody else that you?
I mean, you see so many NFL greats. Dan Fouts was there. I shook his hand and I just said, "Hey, you're one of the best ever." My dad says you probably are the best ever. So it's just fun to see guys like that, especially in their gold jackets. And Terry Bradshaw, and then all the other current great players. And it was fun too because I ran into Jarrett and Brittany Payton, and we all went to the same elementary school in Chicago.
You really?
Yeah. So Brittany was quizzing me to see if I could sing the Grove Avenue fight song, and I could, and she knew it too. So it was fun.
How does that go?
I'm all sung out. I knocked it out last night.
Singing?
Yeah, I'm all sung out.
I did hear, I got to tell you, Kirk, I did hear through the grapevine that you do have an actually really good singing voice.
Decent. It's okay. After years of barking out snap counts, what is that?
Yes, right.
My voice keeps getting scratchier and scratchier. But I was in a little singing show choir in high school, and so my mom had us in musicals as kids and things. So there's a background there, but I'm far more a football player than I am a singer.
Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you think of the matchup of this Super Bowl, Kirk?
Well, I think
what do you got for me?
Over the long NFL season, these really were the two best teams. So I think it's fitting that they're in the Super Bowl. Just observing from a distance, I watched a lot more of the Eagles than I did of the Chiefs throughout the season, just because we had so many common opponents.
You also played them in week 2.
Correct. Yeah. I saw them up close and personal. But my head would say the Eagles, are probably the better football team overall.
Why is that?
Just the line play. You see the D line. They've just been dominant. I mean, all season long. And I think their only losses were really when Jalen Hurts wasn't playing. And so they've just from wire to wire just been convincing. But the Chiefs are there for a reason, and they've been at the top of the league now for several years for a reason, and so I do think it'll be a great football game.
And it's interesting with Hurts. I'd love to linger with Hurts a little bit with you, especially since he said there were a bunch of people that weren't welcoming him with open arms. They didn't think they were surprised that he was selected there. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who was drafted and surprised a fan base that being drafted there. You're kind of that guy, you know. Like and it seems drafted RG3 being drafted. Yeah. You're drafted there too.
Sure.
But there's had to be a bunch of folks there who were kind of, why is he here? And he kind of voiced that he had that feeling when he was there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think in pro football, what I've learned through my decade of experience with it is sometimes you just never can tell. And you don't know what's going to happen. And it's so key for us as players to just keep going to work, keep our head down, stay humble, stay hungry, and believe. And you never know what's going to happen. I think Jalen's done that, and I think a lot of great players in this league have done that. But you start to find that Jalen's story, my story, is actually more normal than people might think, because certainly the first-round picks get a lot of attention and the guys who were supposed to be great.
Yes.
But whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Jalen Hurts, whether it's any number of offensive, defensive linemen, there are a lot of guys who have carved out great careers in this league that nobody saw coming out of high school or out of college.
Yeah. So were there moments where you were wondering, will I get a shot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember, even coming out of Michigan State, and you're in the draft process, and you're you're even wondering, am I going to get picked? And then when you do get picked, wondering, am I going to get a shot? I remember Kyle Shanahan, the day after I was drafted, gave me a call, and he just said, Kirk, the goal is that you would play well in preseason games, and we would trade you. That's really the model where this works out well.
Is that what he said?
That was the model, and I understood because he said I coached Matt Schaub in Houston, and that was the model that he took. He backed up Michael Vick in Atlanta for 3 years, played well in preseason games in a small stint where Mike got hurt. We traded for him in Houston, and he had a great career with us in Houston. So he said that's really a great model. It can be done. So don't think that because you're backing up that it's a dead end. The preseason is going to give you a great opportunity to someday get traded. But really, that was the model, was this works out well if you can give us a couple of draft picks down the road by getting traded.
How did you take that?
Well, I think, as my dad said an hour after I was picked, he said, Kirk, Mike Shanahan has coached around Bill Walsh, around John Elway, around Steve Young. Yeah. If he's picking you in a situation where it really wouldn't be logical to, he believes in you and he sees something in you. So he said, I would take that as a vote of confidence that Kyle and Mike really think you can play. And they're going to have your back. And sure enough, as time has proven, they did.
Well, I mean, a lot of the conversation around at the time, because I was sitting on a draft set and we were talking about it right after that, was that maybe the Shanahans weren't the ones sold on RG3 to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. Yeah, I don't think so. I think Mike had a vision for how they could use Griff running the football and the difference it could make in this league with a running quarterback. And to their credit and to Griff's credit, they did. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year, and defenses didn't really have a great answer, and they were able to regulate defenses, and Mike and Kyle both have such great football minds. They had a way of being able to really make his skill set a problem for defenses. So certainly it was I think something that they understood what they were doing.
Yeah, and now you take a look at Hurts himself. I mean, you talk about running and passing threat. He's dynamite this year.
The RPO game, it continues to be tough to defend if you know what you're doing, and then you got to have a quarterback who really can run it and knows how to run it, and clearly he's good at it and has a great feel for it, as do their entire team and their scheme, their offense. So it's tough to defend. Like you said, I watched it week 2. It was tough to defend, and it's a defense also. Their D-line, it's tough, man. They make you earn it.
Kirk Cousins here, courtesy of K Jewelers, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before we get to that, your receiver left double-fisted last night. He did not have an empty hand.
No, he didn't.
Last night. What is it like throwing to Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, we traded Diggsy to Buffalo.
Right.
You're kind of like, well, what's the plan here? Because we've got Adam Thielen, but we're losing one of our better players. What's the plan? They said, well, we're going to get a first-round pick, and the plan will be to draft a receiver. I said, that's great if we get a great receiver, but I've also been around a lot of, seen a lot of players get drafted who don't really pan out the way it was planned. And so we were very fortunate that we picked the 5th receiver in that draft and ended up with Justin Jefferson. Wow. So it worked out so well. Obviously, it worked out well for Buffalo, too. I don't think they're disappointed. But to get Justin where we did, we could have never predicted that he'd be what he's been. I mean, to set the rookie record for yards, and then year 2 to top that, and then year 3 to do what he's done. At some point, we're going to plateau. We can't just keep going up, but he's a phenomenal player. And then Kevin, I can't say enough about the job that he did to week after week, as defenses were working hard to take Justin away, to keep finding ways to get Justin the ball and scheme it up so he is open and I can work him. Kevin did a great job there.
Yeah, and so where do we go from here? Because you win the division, you don't finish well at all.
No.
I mean, regular season, and obviously we saw what happened in the playoffs.
Right.
To what do you attribute that?
Yeah, so walking off the field, that's the exact question that I asked myself, is where do we go from here? Because you win 13 games. We're 11-0 in one-score games in the regular season. Yeah. We win a division title, host a home playoff game. There's a lot of positives there. But when you lose a home playoff game, there's a lot of frustration and disappointment. And so certainly, the goal is to, as we get back in April, is to just build this thing again from the ground up. You start 0-0. You'd love to think that 13 wins somehow gives you a head start in the 23, but it doesn't. Right. We all start even in April, and we got to build this thing up again and plan to get back to that home playoff game setting if we can. And then from there, we got to get the job done and keep going.
What do you think Rodgers is going to decide when he emerges from the darkness?
Your guess is as good as mine. I do think that when you have a great contract like he has, it's tough to walk away.
Yeah.
It's a great, he signed a great contract. So I would think it'd be, he'd be motivated to come back. As to whether he's in Green Bay or not, I don't know, but I still think he's one of the elite best players in our game, and whoever he plays for, he's going to make a real difference for him. And I would think Green Bay, but I don't know.
That's what it sounds like. I would think that too, or maybe Vegas. I don't know. But 4 days in darkness.
You never know. I mean, he did the ayahuasca and he then won 2 MVPs. So he seems to have a plan.
He does. All right, let's talk about Kay Jewelers and what you're doing with them.
Yeah, so Kay's partnered with the NFL, and they're now making pieces that are licensed. So as a fan of your team, you can now wear the jewelry with that logo. So my wife Julie has a necklace with the Norseman Viking logo on it. And for Julie, it's fun because for us, the jewelry, it represents so much more than just a team logo. I mean, it's our life. It's what we do for a living. All of our greatest memories as a family center around being a part of the Minnesota Vikings, and so it means a lot to Julie to be able to wear that piece to games and to team events. And so now anybody as a fan can go out and get jewelry pieces of their team through Kay, and just in time for Valentine's Day. It's perfect.
It's right around the corner. It's always every Super Bowl. It's like it comes right up. It's coming on Tuesday.
Here we go. And with the 17th game now, we're pushed a week later, so we're even closer to Valentine's Day.
It's it just jams up the whole schedule.
Sure does.
You got something planned for next week?
You know what? I'm back to Minnesota on Sunday. I'll probably land from the airport, race home, and turn on the big game. Okay. I'll be watching from my couch in Minnesota.
I meant Valentine's Day.
Oh, Valentine's Day. Well, we'll be heading south then. So after the Super Bowl, we'll get down to warm weather in Florida.
What do you mean? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, we'll be headed to Florida.
Do you got a spot there?
And we're getting a spot there in time. Until then, we'll just rent a place.
Okay.
Yeah. So look forward to kind of getting out of Minnesota for a couple months in February, March, and then OTA start back up again in April, and we'll be heading back north.
I hear you. All right. So what's your prediction for Super Bowl 57? Kirk Cousins. What do you have?
Tough call. All these games tend to be so close, but I'm going to go with the Eagles in a close one. Maybe something like the Eagles low 30s, and then the Chiefs mid 20s. But I gotta believe Mahomes and Kelsey are gonna keep it interesting.
We asked that of Kittle to start the show. I've asked this of virtually every guest. How does he get so wide open? Because everybody knows.
I say the same thing.
Like we're watching a game.
Yes.
We watch it, but obviously you see it differently because you're a quarterback. But I mean, Mahomes runs around and then just like, oh, there's Travis Kelce with no one around him.
Maybe that's a combination of, first of all, Andy Reid and Bieniemy with their play design. Because I know with Kevin, with Justin, everybody's trying to take Justin away, and he's still showing up. I remember going into the Patriots game on Thanksgiving night thinking, if anybody's going to take Justin away, it's Coach Belichick. There's no way he's going to have a great game. I've seen this reel too many times. And then first drive of the game, Justin scores a touchdown, and the rest of the game he made play after play, and you think, well, there's those games where maybe we can still get him the ball. Yeah. And Kelsey's somewhat the same way. But then, when Pat plays off schedule, all bets are off.
Correct.
So sometimes his ability to play off schedule is probably what then allows Kelsey to still get involved.
And I know I'm going to say the words here, but I'm kind of proud of myself that I just did an entire interview with you without asking you about you like that. I mean,
you didn't bring up the Michigan State rivalry.
Well,
we didn't say you like that.
There has to be a rivalry for that to happen.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
There was a good rivalry. My years. Actually, I would say there wasn't a rivalry my years because it was the other way. So I guess that's what good rivalries do, is they just kind of go back and forth, right?
They go back and forth. No, I know. I mean, I was just trying to be a good host here.
Yeah, and then I had to go there.
You went there.
I'm
patting myself on the back because you must get that every interview pretty much. So,
well,
thanks for coming here.
Great to see you, Rich.
You got it.
Thank you.